Teacher fired for not using students' preferred pronouns wins massive settlement. This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. This was a really heroic decision to decide to fight the school district and essentially fight the state for First Amendment rights. But it's not just First Amendment rights, it's also protecting children. This gym teacher was being asked to violate her religious beliefs and also mislead her students to go along with the transgender agenda and false narratives. The worst part of all this to me was she was also being asked to hide from parents children's expressed gender identity so parents would not even know what's going on with their own children. That is the worst part of this transgender agenda for me. The government is trying to get between parents and their children, and to be part of something like that, even if your job requires it, is absolutely wrong, and she did the right thing. The state fired her over this, she sued them, and they backed out and gave her a big cash settlement. From the Daily Mail, Christian school teacher who was fired for refusing to use trans students' preferred pronouns settles her lawsuit. They knew she was going to win, so they figured they may as well just pay her. It's also better for the government that's trying to push this agenda to not have to lose the lawsuit and create as big a precedent. If they lost this lawsuit and she won millions of dollars or something like that from them, it would make it more difficult for them to push their agenda on these teachers and these children. So she took the win and settled the lawsuit. A former gym teacher has reached a settlement with a California public school district after claiming she was wrongfully fired when she refused to lie to parents about their children's pronoun preference and hide her religious beliefs. Jessica Tapia, that's this lady, will receive $360,000 from the Jurupa Unified School District after she was fired in 2022 and accused of proselytizing during class. Proselytizing is trying to push your beliefs and your religion on other people. You can imagine the people that are pushing the transgender religion are unhappy that she's supposedly discussing her religion during class. The teacher said the district accused her of not calling a student by their preferred pronouns, but denies ever being asked by a student to do so in the first place. She claimed the district directed her to refer to students by their preferred gender pronouns, refrain from publicly posting her faith and opinions on social media, and refrain from discussing her religious beliefs or the Bible with students, which she refused to do. Well, what happened to me can happen to anybody, and I want the next teacher to know that it's worth it to take a stand for what's right, Tapia said. Quote, in 2022, I took a stand for truth. I was a PE teacher who was directed to refer to students by whatever gender they felt they were, withhold that information from their parents, and allow boys into the girls' locker room. Because I refused to lie to kids about their identity, because I refused to lie to their parents, and because I refused to put kids in harm's way, they fired me, Tapia said. The Jurupa Unified School District told DailyMail.com that the settlement does not state or prove any illegal action or discrimination on their part. Well, this settlement is not a win for Ms. Tapia, but is a compromise of a disputed claim, Jurupa Unified School District Director of Communications, Jackie Paul said. The district continues to deny any illegal action or discrimination against Ms. Tapia. As is clear from the settlement agreement, the district has not admitted any fault or wrongdoing against Ms. Tapia. Really? If you had no fault and no wrongdoing, okay, that's legal technicalities. Why are you paying her hundreds of thousands of dollars? After announcing the settlement, Tapia shared she and Advocates for Faith and Freedom launched a program called Teachers Don't Lie to provide support and legal help to teachers facing similar challenges. And of course, this is going on all over the country. Quote, I want teachers to be confident in the fact that the best thing we can do for students is educate in truth, not deception, Tapia said. This is why I'm joining forces with Advocates for Faith and Freedom to launch Teachers Don't Lie, a resource that will be committed to giving a voice of truth to teachers. I am confident that we are making progress to ensure that no teacher has their faith violated within the schoolhouse gates again. According to the lawsuit, which was filed by Advocates for Faith and Freedom on Tapia's behalf, the Riverside woman was originally praised for her work after she became a full-time employee at the school district in 2016. The lawsuit stated that when Tapia was working at the Mira Loma Middle School, the principal once praised her work, writing, quote, her positive attitude and high expectations make her students believe in themselves and therefore strive to achieve their potential. But 2 days after the end of the 2021-2022 school year, Tapia's career came crashing down when she received disturbing messages and comments on her personal Instagram page from alleged Jurupa Valley High School students. When she went to work the next day, the suit contended Tapia was told she had to meet with Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources Daniel Brooks, who told her that the district was aware of her social media posts and she would be put on administrative leave. The district claimed, as allegedly supported by students, that Ms. Tapia's social media posts were racist, offensive, disrespectful, and mocking towards individuals based upon their sexual orientation, the lawsuit explained. Lawyers for Tapia, however, argue that is a mischaracterization of who Tapia is, noting that her faith requires her to love all people regardless of sexual orientation, race, or gender. But her faith precludes her from endorsing policies that cause her to reject her faith, such as facilitating a student's gender transition or withholding information about it from the student's parents, it says. How are parents supposed to care for their children if they don't know what their children are going through? Even if the whole transition thing is completely legitimate, whatever. If you want to say it is, let's just say it is for the sake of argument. How can you take that away from parents? How can parents not know what's going on with their own children and take care of them properly? What are they supposed to do over the summer? Over a summer break, let's say the school knows completely what's going on. Let's say the school is handling transition issues completely appropriately for a student if that were at all possible. How are the parents supposed to support that over a summer break? For a few months? Who is that student supposed to go to maintain that continuity with their transition issues if there was a legitimate way to even do that? It's never legitimate when a minor is having issues and the parents are not involved. I can't believe this thing got as far as it did. Whatever this thing is, it can't continue without informing parents. The suit explained, as a devout Christian, Tapia believes God defines human sexuality and that men and women are created in God's image. She also believes lying in any form is inconsistent with the Bible's teachings and has expressed that belief on social media. A review of Tapia's Facebook account by dailymail.com shows that in June of that year, she posted that she just felt like speaking some truth. Quote, don't twist the beautiful things God has created, and don't twist truthful words into hate, she wrote. And in a Twitter post, she wrote, truth over transitions. If you think you're going to break someone's heart by telling them the truth of who they really are, then break their heart. She then shared that tweet on her Facebook in February, writing, quote, we can be as gentle and loving as possible in this, and we should be, but the fact of the matter is the truth still cuts to the core. But that's no reason to lie. Why? To avoid temporary hurt feelings? Still, the lawsuit contended the posts were made on her personal profiles and did not list her as an employee of the school district. It also noted that she never proselytized in school and only spoke about her faith when students asked her directly. So if they were to ask her in California about her gender, or to ask her about her sexual preferences or her significant others, she's not supposed to answer that question? I would think in California they love talking about that. A teacher's personal life is their personal life, and it's really not the business of the students. The students shouldn't really be involved in that, and if they ask questions, I don't know, decline answering, but you can't say, well, you can only talk about it if it's about an LGBT subject, but you can't discuss it with students if it's not an LGBT subject. In the aftermath of her suspension, the lawsuit says the district allegedly sent Tapia a notice of unprofessional conduct and presented her with a plan of assistance and directives for the following school year. The plan included a list of written and verbal directives requiring her to lie to parents about their children's gender identity, to refrain from posting content that would adversely affect her relationship with students, and banned her from expressing her religious beliefs with students. She decided to take a medical leave of absence through December 2022, then sent the district a letter saying she would like to return to work but could not comply with these conditions. Quote, staying true to my faith and beliefs, I can and only will refer to students by the name and gender pronouns provided by their parents or legal guardians on school paperwork during enrollment, she wrote. Quote, "The lies and confusion that children are fed in terms of you aren't who you were created to be is based on evil, and I will not take part in that," she continued. "Therefore, the best thing I can do to support students and equip them for a bright future is to love and encourage them in who they were created to be, and that is what they were born as, either male or female." In her lawsuit, and it is extensive, it lists her multiple causes of action, among other things. But what was the basis she was actually suing on? Her first cause of action, violation of the Free Exercise Clause of the First Amendment to the Constitution. How can they tell her on her own social media pages or anywhere in public she can't discuss her faith? Does that make any possible sense? She can't speak what she believes on her own social media? How could they possibly monitor that and try to limit that kind of speech? The First Amendment's Free Exercise Clause provides that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. The First Amendment guarantees Ms. Tapia's right to freely exercise her religion. Plaintiff's religious faith precludes her from complying with the directives. The directives on their face as applied violate Ms. Tapia's right to free exercise of religion because they force her to forego her religious beliefs to maintain public employment. Her second cause of action, violation of the Free Speech Clause of the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. Ms. Tapia's religious expression is fully protected under the First Amendment, which prohibits the government from abridging the freedom of speech. This prohibition applies to state and local governments through the 14th Amendment. The directives and their enforcement compel plaintiff's speech by requiring she use a child's preferred pronouns. Compelled speech, where you're compelled, forced to say something, is a violation of free speech rights. The government cannot compel speech. And Congress or the executive branch through regulations cannot force you to say something. Her third cause of action, violation of the Due Process Clause of the United States Constitution. The directives unconstitutionally restrict the ability of plaintiff to engage in First Amendment activities. The directives contain various terms and phrases that are impermissibly vague and ambiguous. The directives permit unbridled discretion by permitting JUSD, that's the school district, to determine what actions will warrant the suppression of speech. The directives on their face and as applied encourage arbitrary enforcement. JUSD disciplines teachers pursuant to the directives based upon their subjective interpretation as to what constitutes discriminatory or harassing speech or speech that is not respectful. Her fourth cause of action, violation of California's Fair Employment and Housing Act. The Fair Employment and Housing Act makes it unlawful for an employer, because of religious creed of any person, to refuse to hire or employ the person, or to refuse to select the person for a training program leading to employment, or to bar or discharge the person from employment or from a training program leading to employment, or to discriminate against the person in compensation or terms, conditions, or privileges of employment. It also requires employers to reasonably accommodate an employee's religious beliefs and practices. The defendant has discriminated against the plaintiff. The defendant failed to engage in any reasonable negotiations to determine if transfers or reassignments were available. Indeed, Ms. Tapia specifically asked to transfer to another school or to another position where she would have limited interaction with students. Even still, defendant failed to offer reasonable accommodations. Defendant did not and cannot demonstrate that providing any accommodations would impose an undue burden. And in a fifth cause of action, violation of Title VII. JUSD's decision to enforce its directives, including banning religious expression against only Ms. Tapia and not other similarly situated employees who also engage in religious expression, constitutes disparate treatment under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1967. JUSD also directly discriminated against Ms. Tapia on the basis of her religion. JUSD issued directives at Ms. Tapia that targeted her religious expression on her social media pages and on school grounds. This conduct constitutes discrimination on the basis of religion. And in her sixth cause of action, deprivation of civil rights under 42 U.S.C. 1983, a First Amendment retaliation. Clearly established law bars the government from retaliating against Americans for exercising their constitutional rights and from taking actions designed to deter people from exercising their constitutional rights. Ms. Tapia was engaged in protected speech when she was expressing her religious beliefs on her personal social media accounts and in her classroom. Her right to not affirm JUSD's beliefs on gender identity is also protected. JUSD retaliated against Ms. Tapia by threatening her loss of employment if she did not comply with its directives. JUSD threatened Ms. Tapia with loss of employment and refused to grant her an exemption because of her protected religious expression. And what she was asking for in this lawsuit is listed here under prayer for relief. Nominal damages for violation of her civil rights. Damages for plaintiff in an amount to be proven at trial. A declaratory judgment that the district's directives are unconstitutional. A declaratory judgment that the district's directives violate FEHA and Title VII. Temporary, preliminary, and permanent injunctive relief enjoining defendants, that means preventing them from enforcing the district's directives and or taking any adverse employment action against the plaintiff based on her refusal to follow every directive. She's also asking for attorney's fees and costs and any other relief or compensation that the court would believe is appropriate. So the district had to give her $360,000 over this lawsuit. She did do the right thing. She had to stand up to them. If you don't stand up to this tyranny, look at what it will do to children. And if it will do this to children, you can imagine what it'll do to anyone. If you don't respect children and you don't respect parents and you don't respect the relationship between children and parents, what could be more tyrannical than that? Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.